Hello and welcome back to our Haunted Zoo mini-series, where we are doing just a really quick little 4-episode plus tour series building basically a haunted house in Planet Zoo. So in this episode today is the actual main feature of this whole situation. It is the haunted house. So in the last episode, in case you missed it, we built a little graveyard with a skunk habitat and a wombat habitat from the new Twilight Pack. And it's all graveyard or like cemetery themed. So it looks kind of cool out there, especially at night. You'll probably see some of it in like the what would you call it? Like the cinematics, the cinematic shots at the end. But yeah, if you want to check out that video, check it out. Otherwise, really, this one is the star of the show here in this series, I think. I think this house turned out really quite well. I was looking at a sort of drawing of a haunted, it was actually the same sort of thing. It was like a little haunted mansion of some sort up on top of over top of a graveyard. And that was basically my inspiration for this one. So we have a lot of these cool new pieces. So the windows, the even these rock walls. I mean, I'm still convinced that these rock wall pieces are so similar to some of the other ones we have. It wouldn't make a difference, but windows are a big one. I think the Twilight windows are so cool and fit really well in here. And they end up being a really big focal point of this house. So that's an important piece there. But again, I was talking about this a bit last episode when I was building the little mausoleum. Gosh, archways are my nemesis in this game. I just want some cool ways to build like rounded pieces, and it's so hard to find good ones, but this one's fit at least here well, because it is fitting right against the wall pieces, which is totally fine. But essentially I just wanted to kind of try to detail out the walls a little bit here. But that is our entryway. I end up changing, I used the windows at first thinking, oh, it can kind of like look like a door. I'm gonna eventually change that and put in a normal door there, I think, but that's fine for now. It'll look similar in the end, but that one is going to change the door. Real star of the show here are these windows. So these are the emissions panels. They're from, I don't think these are from the Twilight Pack, unless they gave us the new rounded ones, but I don't think so. I think they just made the windows fit over these because we already had these emissions panels. I could be wrong, but it's the shape of the windows, and then I'm going to put the new Twilight windows over top of these, obviously. So I do think this is a really cool part, and when building, you know, any kind of like castle or gothic theme kind of thing like this, I think the windows that we got in this pack are absolutely perfect. So I'm really happy with what these look like in the end. And of course, before I did all of this, at least I thought here at this stage, change the color of the windows before we add in everything over top. So we're going for an orangey glow kind of theme here. We did an orangey glow in the graveyard as well, but I mean, it's Halloween. The whole point of this is kind of Halloween-y, so obviously just wanted to test in the dark there that we're going for an eerie orange glow all over the place in this zoo. So here, just kind of deciding how many windows we should have. I settled on 3 windows in the end because 4 just seemed like too much, and I didn't want to make this building too much bigger than it already was. I find one of the tricks with building stuff like this is you can't, like, big is great, and being able to have something very grand looking is really cool, but the detail is important. And at least in this one in particular, I didn't want this to be a build, really anything in this series. I didn't want to be a build that was so ridiculously like, not gonna happen, you know what I mean? I wanted it to be realistic for like anybody to build and for me to build in a fairly short amount of time, because I want this whole series to come out before Halloween, and the Twilight Pack came out like a week before Halloween. So, or maybe not a week, I guess it was 2 weeks before. It came out last week sometime, but yeah, essentially not a lot of time here. So I spent some time here trying to make this look like an elaborate sort of like all connected big like window situation. I end up cutting this back quite a bit because you might see it soon here, but I put this in the dark and realized how awful the panels look stacked up together. I thought I had done this once before, but I guess it wasn't the panels that I used. I must have used something else. So I think I did this in my cold zoo at one point with like putting light behind the big rounded window. But this just wasn't working at all. So after spending a little bit of time trying to figure out what to do here, I decided that the best way to do this would be to just make it actually like an open window, and then put light on the inside. So it's not absolutely perfect. I had to kind of like fill in the pieces here because there's no rounded hole piece for this set. It's just the square ones and whatever, but I think in the end, especially since, I mean, most of this is going to be looked at in the dark. That's the idea behind this zoo. You're going to visit it in the dark. I don't really think you can notice. So I think it works out quite well. And then I just take the spotlight, I believe it was, yeah, the spotlight, figure out where to like float it in the middle of space in order to make the window glow the correct amount and not like overglow compared to everything else. But in the end, I think this looks spooky enough. It gets the point across anyway, and works out quite well. So that's what we ended up going with. So there's a little tip there if you're looking to make rounded windows. I've tried to do rounded windows in this game before, and yeah, they're very hard to do. The big like gothic rounded windows, but we made it work in the end. So playing around with some more of the Twilight pieces here, I wanted to do a couple of like side towers on the side of this building, just because I think that's kind of the look we're going for. At first, I thought maybe I could build my own tower using these pieces, but the roof does not quite fit with this size of pieces. And then I realized that they have their own towers already pre-built. So we're going the easy route here and just taking the pre-built towers and building our own little spire here. Looks very, yeah, it looks better in the end. I think I had to make a couple of changes here and there to it and use, I think I stacked, like alternating stacked the other ones, but either way, I figured it needed to be moved away a little bit from the main centerpiece. So I just have this little transitional wall here. Decided to put a little bit of a design on the roof part here. I think a lot of this ends up being covered up in the end anyway, but we did it anyway, just to add a little bit to it. I think like I was saying before, in a build like this, the details really matter. So it's a balancing act of not making it too big, so you can still detail it a bunch, but still kind of trying to make it look very grand compared to the people. But thank goodness the people in this game are pretty small, so it works out quite well. But yeah, this the other thing we have here is a sort of it was sort of like a column in the reference image that I was looking at. There was this sort of like side roof piece that was like supported by some columns. I don't know what it would be in like practicality. I'm pretty sure it was just like a decorative, it wasn't real. It was a drawing, but I think in reality it would work. It would act as just like a decorative sort of like column piece on the side of the building here, because otherwise it just doesn't really, it isn't really anything. But I do think it adds quite a bit to break up between the transition point of the main part of the building and then this little like side part, and then we're gonna have the tower. It just kind of all works out quite well all together in the end there. So yeah, I think this worked out really well after all. Of course, trying to figure out how to how to like stack. I wanted to do these two different sized things, and it shouldn't have taken me this long to figure it out, but it took me a little while to figure it out. What I wanted to do here, just make it wider, just make it wider. But yeah, these are still all the new, I don't know what these are called. They're just the brick wall pieces or the stone brick pieces that came from the new pack. But here, obviously putting on like a 1 grid size and removing these, like separating them. I think I ended up separating them from the grid of the actual building so I could move them around a bit and add in the little, yeah, add in, you know, make it look more like a column and less like these super thin walls. That's one thing that I think would be a really useful addition to this game is thicker wall pieces. Just because you can't really get them side by side very well, like, but to have like a 3 or 4 thick wall piece, I don't know, I just like that actually snaps to the grid. I feel like, well, how would that, yeah, I don't know. I think it could work. I'm sure there would be a way the game could make it work. I think it would be very useful to have. There's a lot of situations where I don't want to put in like a column because it doesn't really match the wall, but I would love just like to show that it's actually a thick wall and not just like the teeniest, tiniest little wall that exists. But you know, beggars can't be choosers. We do have a lot of pieces in this game and we can make it work in the end. But now the facade, the front of this house is really coming together here now. So at this point I wanted to put together the towers. I built a very crooked tower to start with. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that it was completely crooked. But you know, yeah, just the leaning side tower off of this guy here. So you know, if you're messing with your own terrain, because I made this kind of intentionally not super straight, yeah, just don't align to surface. Don't align to your wonky ground surfaces. But anyway, so here's a tower. This is the trick for these towers. It took me a couple of tries, but the alternating, you have to alternate between the 2 types of tower, I think, for it to really look like not just ridiculous with a window on every single one. It looks really good. I just alternated the 2 like large tower pieces that it came with up the stack, and it looks much better than what I had tried to do at the first part. But yeah, this is what I was kind of talking about with this little like transitional piece that I was doing. I put it in, and then the roofing around it ends up looking fine in the end, but you can kind of see here, it's like, okay, well, what even is this? It's not a tower. You can't go in there. It's just a sort of like weird wall piece in the end, but I don't know. I don't think it looks super out of place after everything, so whatever, it works out. We play around a little bit here and there, and we're not going to get it perfect every single time. So that ends up being ends up totally fine in my opinion. But the other side of the building is just mirrored, so now that we've done all of these pieces, and I kept them separate from the main building piece so that we could like copy them over, it worked really well. And then this building's totally symmetrical. I end up doing the exact same thing on the back as well. But yeah, it all works out really well here. What is next? Oh, I just wanted to build a little, it's just a little cross over the top to make it look more like it belongs in a graveyard, I guess, was kind of the intention there. But this is the remake of the door. So the Twilight Pack comes with some cool door pieces as well. So I will build the door. I will fix the door and build it eventually, but I guess before I do that, I end up building the side walls. So this part here ends up being, I don't go through and detail this whole thing. I figured doing the front of the building where the people are really going to be, and then like it's mirrored on the back of the building, it's good enough for this build. If you wanted to build something like this, you could definitely go in and like add a bunch more to like make this sidewalls make more sense. But essentially I just made it so that it was like the kind of a little bit more dimensional. It has that second layer that's going to be some archways, and it's going to have the wall in the back. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot more detail that ends up going in the side of the building. That's just kind of how this one ended up working out in the end. But we can see we're playing a little bit around with the roofing here as well, making sure that essentially I just wanted to make sure that everything kind of fit together and was in so that I could duplicate everything and just make it easier to build, or easier to finish, I guess. In the end, it's kind of, it's always a bit of a game to try to figure out what you should be like duplicating and what you can, especially when you're trying to do a front and a back, because you copy it and then you rotate it. So that's why I'm going to do this half of the building, and then I'm going to copy the whole thing. You'll see it. Yeah, rotate it here and plop it in. I guess I didn't get we'll copy over the little side piece anyway afterwards. But yeah, that's kind of how it works out in the end. I do change the weird little walls, or not the walls, the roofs. We're not gonna have orange roof pieces. They will be gray. This is a dark, dingy castle, and we don't need a fancy orange roofing on our dark, dingy castle. But yeah, these, like, that's what I was saying. Okay. So saying earlier about these weird little transitional wall pieces, I did start to feel really weird about them, and like they felt a little out of place, especially when the roof was on. So I fixed that a little bit by adding kind of a roof piece to them. It wasn't in the original image, but I think this kind of worked out quite well in the end. Makes it just look a little bit less like super random weird pieces gone into the side of the building there. So I think that kind of, yeah, I think it just kind of rounded it out a little bit more. And then yeah, gray roofs. We're going to do a boring and dingy gray instead of these bright orange. I think it just kind of fits the theme a little bit better. But I think we successfully kind of built a little Gothic mansion here, which is essentially what we were going for. What do we... Yeah, so the roof pieces, play around with those a little bit more, make sure that they're mirrored on the other side. And then those are all going to be mirrored on the back as well. And then, yeah, the sides of the building are just these archways. I'm going to put some cool lighting in there in the end as well. Basically is all that is, is just some lighting inside the archways at the end to make them maybe look like there could be windows or something in there, but I didn't actually bother building windows and stuff. It didn't need it, in my opinion. But if you are going to build something like this, I think there's a lot of opportunity for putting that in. I don't know why this video is clipping. So I had such a hard time, little tangent here, but I had such a hard time filming this video. I filmed the first episode in this series, and it's been a while since I've filmed anything for this channel, or like at all, I guess. And first episode went fine. I used my old filming software and everything, and it went perfectly fine. And then I go to try to film this one, and my software is completely broken. It doesn't work anymore. I had to get like a new recording software. So I think this video is actually lower quality. You can kind of see it in the menu at the bottom. Usually I think in my videos, maybe it like downgrades it a little bit when it gets uploaded to YouTube, but like usually it's pretty clear, like the text and stuff at the bottom. Like it's pretty high quality video. This one is less so. So I apologize for that as well. If anybody even noticed, probably nobody noticed before I said anything. But I think the next video, I have already recorded it before I noticed how blurry this was, but I think the other one is better. So I don't know. I don't know what's been happening, but hopefully I can get that all sorted before we really get back into the groove of doing videos. But anyway, tangent over. This is the lighting I was talking about, just to make the walls glow. Is it realistic? Not at all. I just like put some lighting inside of the walls, but I think it gives the vibe, which is exactly what we're going for here. And then I think the last main thing for the outside of this one, other than we'll do some landscaping around after this as well, and then we have to put the bats on the inside. But I wanted to build a little door here. We got these really cool door pieces from the Twilight Pack. I don't know exactly what all of the pieces are like meant to do, like those brackets and stuff, but I just kind of put them all together to try to make a cool looking door that would fit the theme, essentially. And I mean, it was easy enough, I think. We ended up doing a windowless door. I thought about windows, but then I'm put some windows on the side here instead, just to add a little bit more color on the inside. They're not really bright enough to like light it up or anything, so I'll add a little bit more light here as well. But yeah, kind of checking it out and realizing that my door is not lit up enough. So I'll add one of these new, another thing from the new Twilight Pack is the hanging. Oh yeah, there's chains, and then it's like a little hanging lamp. Again, I think we had pieces before that would work perfectly fine for this. If you don't have the pack, I think there's another lantern that would work basically the same. But yeah, that's what we ended up using. And it's nice and bright, so that's always good. I think some of the lighting in this game is like unnecessarily dim, in my opinion. Like if I want lighting, I want lighting, you know what I mean? But anyway, so here's where we put in the bat cave, which I actually didn't plan properly. I got very lucky here that I built this a perfect size for the like bat thing. I thought that it would be smaller and that I would have a bunch of extra room in here to build around. Yeah, it fit absolutely perfectly. I had to like adjust these walls a little bit just so that you could see them against the yeah, so that it wasn't just black walls everywhere. But yeah, thank goodness it fits perfectly. So this castle is just a bat walkthrough. I truly did think that I would have room to like put in some food and beverage, sort of like some shops and all sorts of stuff, but nope. It's just the bat castle at this point. My goodness, this video is I don't know if it's just my player or if it's gonna like translate to this on YouTube as well. I am very sorry if it's choppy on your end. Hopefully not. Maybe it's just my computer is having a hard time playing it. But anyway, we're gonna say that maybe this isn't a video problem. Maybe it's just a player problem. I hope. But either way, at least we got through most of the build without it starting to glitch out on me. Essentially, all we're doing here is just adding in the bats. I afterwards go back through. I think I do it off video while I was filming the cinematics actually, but I realized you can get rid of everything on there. So you can like get rid of the doors, you can get rid of the cage and everything. So I don't actually know how that would work if you got rid of the cage and had it like outside. I'm not sure if there would be issues with animals escaping. I don't know exactly how that works, but this one is totally contained inside the building anyway. And I think maybe the cage and stuff are just for show. I'm not totally sure, but yeah, either way, I was able to get rid of the cage and stuff, and it just looks like they're hanging out inside of the castle, which I think is really cool. But all we're doing on the outside here, I just thought that I would throw in a few of the trees around just to landscape it out a little bit and make it look a little bit spookier on the outside, and then playing around a little bit with the lighting in the end in the dark as well. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's really all we're doing here. So I think I will leave you to just kind of watch the ending here. It should be the cinematics very soon in the video here, because there isn't really much else that I did other than putting in some bushes and some more of the pumpkins and stuff like that. So either way, enjoy the rest of the video and enjoy the fun shots at the end. I get some cool shots of the bats hanging out in the cave, I think. So yeah, as always, let me know in the comments what you think of this build. If you have any suggestions, I can always add some new stuff in before filming the final tour at the very end. So I'd love to hear your suggestions, and I will talk to you in the next one.